Chapter 4. Max took a long drive around town, trying to get a grip on what had just happened. His thoughts soon wandered back to when he first met Carol. It was August 15th, 1945. VJ Day. Victory in Japan. The war was finally over. Max was in London at the time, and the city was booming with good cheer. Hitler had really tried to destroy London, but the Brits had shown their mettle and carried on with an almost casual confidence. Max liked the British people. They were nothing like they were portrayed in the movies with their stiff upper lip and pip-pip cheerio. They had an energy that was almost contagious. On this night, it seemed that the entire city was trying to tie one on. Max had been to 2 pubs and was on his way to a third. He was alone, but the places were so crowded and happy that he had great fun. Perfect strangers bought him drinks, a way of saying thanks for his contributions. The third pub, the Round Table, was just as crowded as the others. Max bumped into Carol as soon as he entered. He had seen her in both of the other pubs, but they were too crowded for him to get close to her. Now, standing at the bar, he spotted her again. She was talking with a guy, and they seemed to be pointing at him. Max smiled and winked, but soon realized that he was standing in front of the ladies' room. He shook his head and chuckled and ordered a drink. The Brits had great scotch, single malt. Went down like honey. Of course, after about 6 or 7 drinks, anything went down like honey. As he squeezed through the crowd towards the men's room, he bumped into this raven-haired beauty. He made up his mind to buy her a drink when he came out. As he opened the door, he bumped into her again, spilling her drink. "I think it might be safer for you if I bought you a drink. What do you say?" "Sure, I would like that." "I'm Max. How do you do?" he said, formally bowing at the waist. "I'm Carol. Nice to meet you." She was wearing a WAC uniform. Max asked about her outfit and where she'd been. She said she didn't want to talk about that stuff. She was sick and tired of the war. Max knew how she felt. He was still trying to come to grips with the horrors he had seen at Buchenwald. Just the thought of it brought back that smell, that awful, ungodly odor. They had a great time, laughing and singing along when the pub burst into song. The English people loved to sing, and now they had a great reason. Max told Carol his life story. She didn't say much. She was trying to hide her stammer, but that was okay with him. He liked to talk, especially when he'd had a few. He was also thrilled that such a beautiful woman was so interested in him. During the only lull in the conversation, she leaned over and kissed him deeply, oblivious to the crowd. That night, they made love for the first time. It was an experience that Max had never known. Not the sex. He'd been with other women, but this was nothing he'd ever dreamed of. They were like 2 wild animals, grunting and groaning and moaning. Max was nuts about her. He was head over heels in love with her. It was love at first sight. They spent the next few weeks seeing the sights of London. They saw the medieval castles, Buckingham Palace, and Piccadilly Square. The British had such great names. After about a month of this bliss, Max asked Carol for her hand in marriage. He was overjoyed that she said yes. He couldn't believe his luck. Maybe he deserved it, he thought. After all he'd been through, sure, that must be it. Someone up there was looking out for him, and this was his reward. They pooled their meager funds and were able to find 2 inexpensive wedding bands. They were both Americans, so the wedding wouldn't be a problem. They shopped around for a nice dress. Carol said she wouldn't get married in that uniform, and Max understood. He would wear his dress uniform, since he'd only worn it once before when his official army photo was taken. They wound up waking up the only justice of the peace that they could find. He was drunk off his face. His wife was also drunk, and she served as the witness. The justice was so drunk that he said, "You may now kiss my wife." Max did so after he kissed his bride, and Carol kissed the justice. They were so happy. Max knew that he was going to catch hell when he got back to the States and Mama found out. She wasn't going to see him walk down the aislet, as she would say. He knew Papa would understand. Men took things differently in these times. Max literally shook his head to get back to the reality of what had just happened in his office. Knowing that he would need help, Max decided to ask his pal Gino. They'd both come from off-the-boat families and dealt with the same bullies and bigots. Gino had a larger family. He was the eldest of 7 brothers and sisters. His younger brother Tony had also served in the war, too. He'd taken part in the liberation of the Philippines, among other battles. Next in line was his sister Susie. Her real name was Maria Assunta, and she was engaged to an ex-sailor named Vincent Guglielmo, but he was called Jimmy Williams. No one could ever figure out their real names. Gino's other brother was Nicky, a high schooler who was the sport jock of the family. He was followed by their 3 sisters, Laura, Florence, and Gloria. Mama Domenico had certainly been kept busy. He was great with gadgets and a top-shelf auto mechanic. A licensed pilot, Gino and his friend Dick Schwimmer had flown a seaplane around Westchester County one time, and the engine died. The only place to land safely was the county reservoir, and they were lucky to be in that area. Someone had tried that not long before, but it hit the fence around it and died. Gino calmly made a beautiful landing, fixed the engine, and returned to the dock. He didn't tell Papa Domenico. Papa thought Gino had a death wish and hated that he flew. Of course, Gino didn't count on the local newspaper to give it a big write-up. Papa woke Gino up, waving his copy of the Standard Star and calling him and Schwimmer dumb sons of bitches. Gino had flown during the war. He'd made it over the hump in Burma several times. The hump was part of the Himalayas, where planes had to fly at a much higher altitude than usual and depended on dead reckoning, which was flying a certain course for a certain amount of time and hoping you didn't smack into a mountain. The Japanese controlled Burma for most of the war and were fanatical in their defense of the territories. Many planes were shot down going over the hump, but he'd volunteered when others were wary of making the trek. The first time he made the trip, an experienced pilot told him to sit on your helmet if you want to keep your balls. He had flown the B-29 Flying Fortresses and saw a lot of action. Luckily, he never had to confront the horror of POW camps that the Japs ran. The Japs had their own wartime atrocities. Gino lived with his family in a large house on the quiet street of Columbus Avenue. His father kept the place in wonderful condition. Neatly trimmed hedges lined the yard, and the grass was mowed perfectly. As Max pulled up alongside the yard, he heard the roar of engines. Gino had his new plane out in the yard and was revving the engine. He'd taken off the wing and tied the tail to a plum tree. Papa Domenico was screaming at Gino while the prop was kicking up clouds of dust, and Mama Domenico was hurriedly taking clothes off the clothesline. "Buongiorno, Signor Domenico," Max called out. "Come stai?" The old man cried. "Massimo, se dici puedo se senza questo idiota." "Max, talk some sense into this idiot." "Lui non mai si ascolta niente da nessuno. He never listens to anyone." The old man threw his hands in the air and stomped into the house. Gino crawled out from under the plane, covered from head to toe in grease. He was about the same size as Max, maybe a little thinner, with a thick head of reddish-brown hair. He had full lips and an easy, toothy smile. His long, thin nose and twinkling blue eyes betrayed his full Italian heritage. He moved toward Max with his arms outstretched. "Hey, Max, give us a hug," he said with a large smile. "Not on your life, pal. I see you finally bought that plane. You think she'll ever get off the ground?" Scoffing, Gino said, "Oh, sure. You think I don't know what I'm doing? The guy just wanted to get rid of it. He charged me $175. All it needed was a $9 part." "I don't know how you do it," Max said, shaking his head. "You sure know how to find a bargain. I guess it helps to be cheap." "Cheap? I'm extremely careful with a buck. I think they call it frugal," he said with a grin. "Are you still working at that factory down the street?" "No, I'm trying to become independently wealthy, and they were holding me back," he said with a laugh. "Say, Gino, let's go in the garage for a minute. I need to talk to you about something. Could you kill that engine?" "Yeah, sure. Give me a minute." "Ciao, Signora," Max called out to Mama Domenico. She waved. She was a cute little thing, always puttering around the yard with fruits from the trees, wrapped in her apron. Max looked around the cluttered garage. All sorts of junk filled the little space. "Jesus, Gino, why don't you get rid of all this junk? You'd be able to park your car in here. I hear that's what garages are for." "Oh, sure. According to you, it's all junk. But when you need something, you'll have to go and buy it. I'll already have it." "Yep," Max said as he picked up a broken Coke bottle. "You'll be the first person I call when I need a broken bottle." They both laughed. "All right, I'm sure you didn't come here to talk about all this. What's on your mind?" Max found a seat and Gino leaned on his workbench. He listened intently as Max told him of his meeting with Hank. He hoped he didn't show how shocked he was at all the horrible details. He tried not to look in Max's eyes, thinking it would be easier to speak of such difficult things without being stared at. He knew Max had been at Buchenwald, but he respected Max's reticence and didn't press him for the gory details. People wouldn't understand the true horror that servicemen faced in the war, so few guys talked about it. He lit a cigarette and let Max finish his story. So I'm going to need some help with this. You think you could find the time? Max finally said. I'll have to check my schedule. Let's see. The old man is driving me crazy. He wants me to cut the hedges, fix the roof, pick the apples. I start up the engine just to drown him out. But first, let's talk about my compensation and fringe benefits. Fringe benefits? I only get $25 a day plus expenses. I'll take it, Gino said quickly. I said I get $25 a day, not you. What do you think? I'm just a spaghetti bender? I'm a skilled machinist and a decorated veteran. You're decorated with grease right now. Laughing out loud and shaking his head, he said, Okay, it's a deal. Max absent-mindedly stuck out his hand, and Gino quickly grasped it with a handful of grease. Deal, partner, Gino said with a loud laugh. Max pulled his hand away, looking for a rag to wipe off the filth. Be at my office at 8. We get to the post office before it opens, and wear some clean clothes. Washing is going to cost extra, Gino said with a laugh. Walking back to his car, Max realized he was smiling. Maybe he'd be able to get a few laughs out of this nightmare.